theyeshiva.net.
Okay, Daf Tesamid Aleph, 3 lines from the bottom. We're holding by the word ve'ein safek moitzi midei vadai. So let's summarize the discussion. The Mishnah said that we're not afraid that a weasel or another rodent, a rat, has schlepped chametz from a part of the house in which you didn't do the bdika to a part of a house which you did do, where you did do the bdika, and therefore you have to do a second bdikas chametz in the house because maybe there's chametz now. And the eitzah would be what? To hire people to check the whole house simultaneously, right? So it's not possible that I finish the dining room and then I leave the dining room, and in the meantime when I leave and I'm starting with a bedroom and the kitchen is still not done, the chulda put up the kitchen, took the bread from the kitchen on the counter, wherever it is, and brought it into the dining room. But if everyone is boidik the whole house simultaneously, I hire 3 people, 5 people, 20 people, 60 people, 2 people, whatever it is, then I would be able to clear up this problem, because the chulda couldn't go to another room and bring chametz from there into this room, because that room was clean together with this room. So you would think maybe that's how you should do it, especially when rats and weasels were quite common. So this is not stamep psa, shash, when the house doesn't have it, then of course we're not worried. So we're not afraid for this. We're not afraid that a chulda schlepped chametz from one place in the house to another place in the house. Or even one house to another house, right? There's a house and a house near me. So if I finish the bdika in my house and you didn't do the bdika in your house yet, or you're still in the middle, so the chulda, the rat, may have schlepped, dragged chametz from your house into my house. Which the eitzah for that would be what? That our homes should also do bdikas chametz simultaneously. So the Mishnah says we don't have this chashash. Why? Not because it's impossible. It's possible. But the imkain, if you shouldn't stop. You shouldn't stop. Because then all courtyards have to do bdika simultaneously. Even if you have in one courtyard 20 houses, and we finish simultaneously, but in the next courtyard, the rat could take chametz from there and bring it into one of our homes. And then, even if we all courtyards do it in the whole city, in the whole village, but there's another village the rat could come from and bring chametz in an hour later, 2 hours later. And ein ledava soif, this thing will never end. So Chazal said, ein choshesh. That's the Mishnah. Big halacha. On this, the Gemarah said, it's obvious from the Mishnah that there's a reason we're not choshesh. Because it's only Shema, maybe. I can't know it for a fact, but if I know for a fact, I'm sitting in my dining room Erev Pesach in the morning and I'm learning Chumash, or learning Masechtas Pesachim, or learning Hilchas Pesach, and I see suddenly a rat with a nice bagel in its mouth walking into my kitchen, or walking into my dining room, which is post Bdikas Chametz, then you would say it's not Shema Girira, it's Girira. And then you would have to be by the Chametz. And you can't say here, Ein L'Dava Soif. Yes, L'Dava Soif. It's not Ein L'Dava Soif. It's not like it's always going to happen. It's Yesh L'Dava Soif. If you see a rat with chametz in your house, even though the rat disappeared afterwards, and you don't know if the chametz is here, maybe the rat left with the chametz, maybe the rat ate the chametz, maybe the rat is in the house with the chametz, maybe the rat put down the chametz in a hiding place and is going to come back. I don't know. If I see it, I have no problem. We're talking about if you saw it, but now you don't see it. So over here, l'cha'oida, you have to do b'dikas chametz. That's clear from the Mishnah. Why don't we say that the rat ate it? Why don't we say that the rat ate it? And we have a source for this in Maseches Ahalas, that when there's a home of Gentiles, of idolaters, where they used to bury stillborn children, corpses, and therefore the Chachamim said, you have to treat it as a house that is tamei with tumas meis, and you have to be at boidik before you move in, but one exception, if it's a place where pigs and weasels have access to. And then you can assume that they found it and they ate it. They have a tremendous sense of, a good sense of smell, and they're good at this. This is what they do. This is how they survive. They dug it up and they ate it. We're not talking about that a house that's immune from a chulda and a chazir, it's a place with a chulda and a chazir. So Reb Zera answered, what? You can't compare flesh to bread. Flesh we assume they don't leave over, but bread we assume they leave over. So I'm fine that the rat ate it, but the rat also left over lechem. That's the nature. So therefore I can't say he ate it up, because it's lechem, it's chametz. And that's why you have to do another b'dikas chametz. Rava said, the question doesn't begin. Haimai. It's not even a question. Why is it not even a question? Even if bread they also, even if bread and flesh are meat are exactly the same thing, there's no need to make this distinction. Rava says it's a pashta distinction. In the case of the idolatr's home, we're not sure that there's a corpse. It's not like we saw that there's a corpse. We're not sure. Eimer have, eimer have. It could be yes, it could be not. The whole thing is a question. When I move into the house of the Gentile, I don't know that there's a neufel here, that there was a miscarriage and they put the baby. I don't know. Adar yeah, adar nish. Could be yeah, could be not. So I say, first of all, it could be yeah and it could be not. So it's a suffix. And even if you're going to say yes, I have another suffix. Maybe they ate it. Here, it's for sure yeah. It's a certainty. It's a vadai. I saw the chametz. It's not maybe there's chametz. If maybe there's chametz, you're right. If maybe there's chametz, then you could say maybe there's chametz, maybe they ate it. Right? But we're not saying that. We're saying what? Vadai. I saw the chametz. Ein safek moitzi midei vadai. An uncertainty can't cancel out a certainty. An uncertainty that maybe she ate it, maybe she didn't, or he ate it, can't cancel out a certainty. Over there, the uncertainty is not canceling a certainty. The uncertainty is canceling another uncertainty. That could work. Rava's answer. On this, the Gemarah said, 1 second, we have a precedent, otherwise in halacha. The Brisa tells us that a chaver shemeis, a Talmid Chacham who dies, even if that's the very same day that he smoothed out, that's the very same day that he brought in, it's the very same, I stand corrected, it's the very same day that he brought in his produce into the house. What do we say? We say that everybody can eat it, as though it was already tithed. You gave 2% Terumah, 10% Meiser, 10% Meiser, everybody can eat it. It's a suffix in a vadai. Vadai tevel. The fact that it needs tithing is certain. The fact that it was tithed is a suffix. And nonetheless, we maintain that you can eat it. This, the Gemarah said, there's 2 answers. One answer, it's not a suffix vadai, it's a vadai and a vadai, because there's a chazakah, which means there's an assumption that we could rely on as a certainty. That chaver einay moitzi mitachas yada davar she'einay mesukon. So the certainty cancels out the certainty. And the second answer is, it's a suffix with a suffix, because we're not even sure it's tevel. There's a way of bringing in produce to your house, and it's not obligated in maisrus, as Rabbi Shia said. If you bring it in with the chaff unprocessed, and therefore it wouldn't be tevel, and if it wouldn't be tevel, therefore you don't need a vadai to cancel. You don't need a vadai to cancel out a vadai. It's only a suffix tevel. We're not sure what happened. Maybe it is tevel, maybe it's not tevel. We have another suffix. Maybe he gave meiser, maybe he didn't give meiser, and he usually gives meiser, right? It's not like maybe not, probably yes. We're just not sure, and therefore you can eat it. No, the klal is, when we call it a trick, he uses the word trick. It's really not trick. It's called Myra, means it's craft. It's like a trick trying to do the wrong thing. A trick in the sense that it outsmarts the regular system.
Like coming in with the chef.
You could have put huh?
Coming in with the chef, what does it do? It's not devil. It comes to his devil. We're bringing it in.
Produce is mechuyev and meiser only after gemar melacha. After you separated all the parts of the grain that are not obligated in meiser. When grain grows, I showed you the picture, yeah? When grain grows, there is the bottom of the stalk and the top of the stalk. This part, the bottom of the stalk is hollow inside, meaning there's no kernels. The kernels, the seeds, are here, in the higher part, right? This is called teven. This is used for fuel. It's used for animal fodder. It's used for bricks, like by Paroi, right? He said that the Jews have to get the straw themselves. It's used for bricks. It's very good to consolidate bricks. So this is pater for meiser. You don't have to give meiser from teven because it's not meichel adam. It's not edible. This is called moitz. It's the chaff. It's also pater for meiser. It's not meichel adam. Inside, the pnimius, that's where the meiser is. The kodesh is on the pnimius, not on the chitzonis. So the mela, the meiser is only there. So as long as the moitz is still covering it and encasing it, it's not mechuyev and meiser. When it's in the ground and even when it's harvested, because you take it off, right? You harvest it, you make it into bundles, yeah, and then you start threshing it, beating it. But till you go through the whole process, which is called Gemarah Pesachim, you finish processing the kernels, which means you have to beat the husk and get out the seeds, like here. After that, you have to winnow, you have to still separate. After that, you still have to do boiler. After that, you make a pile. You take all your seeds together, and you make a big pile, because you want it to be together. You don't want it to be separate, obviously. And then you do, that's called a keri. Keri means a pond. Then you do miruach hakeri. Miruach hakeri means you smoothen out the pile, which basically represents, you consolidate. You don't want seeds, You tighten it up. You make it airtight so it's solid, it stays. That's called Gemarah Pesachim. That's the moment, halachically, in HaTorah, it becomes mechuyev and trumas and meisters. Now it has the chalois of a food that's edible. From this you're going to make flour. You can eat it also on its own. You can eat kernels, or you grind it and you make it flour, and then the flour you bake into whatever you bake, like we do. However you choose to use the flour. You make matzah, you make chametz, you make challah, you make cake, you make kasha, oats, etc. When you make kasha, then you don't have to always grind it. You just take, right? You could take the whole thing, whether it's oats, whatever type of grain we're talking about. This happens to be wheat, but whatever we're talking about, oats or rye or spelt or barley or wheat and so forth. So the chiyuv meiser happens after Gemarah Pesachim, very important. And we learn this out from the psukim, reishas goncha, sugim bava mitzvah. So therefore, if I bring it in to my house, the moitz and the chaff, not mechuyev. That's what Rabbi Shia says.
That always done outside.
So
It's usually done outside. Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd never have mice.
So what am I doing?
Yeah, till today it's done outside. This is it's a messy, it's a messy process.
So one we have.
So mele it's a suffix teva.
So one we had that he brought it in, and it was a suffix where we say that he did meiser, right? On tzpacham, right? The second part, you said, he brought it in, it wasn't mechuyev. So what's the suffix? There's no suffix.
So it's a suffix teva. No, now it's smoothed out. Now it's smoothed down. Yeah, but it happened in the house. There's two things. First of all, you have to smooth it out, and then you have to bring it into the house through the front entrance. If you bring it in through the skylight, or through the roof, or through the back, it has to be, in addition to smoothing it out, it has to be roya pnei abayis. You bring it into the house through the main front entrance. After it was processed. So this person may have brought it in with the chaff, and then he removed it in the house. So b'meila, he's not mechuyev and meiser, min HaTorah.
Until he...
So it's much like a taxes. If you don't bring it through the main entrance from your company, you keep it offshore, it's you're not mechuyev. So find the loopholes.
In other words, the fact that it's in the house and he finishes it in the house doesn't make it mechuyev and meiser, because it never went into the house after Gemarah Pesachim. So it's a suffix if it ever became tevel.
So that's one suffix.
Yeah, that's the
suffix.
In other words, this tvua may have never become a chuyev and meiser. It never became a chuyev and meiser, so it's not a vadai tevel. The second suffix is, let's say it did become a chuyev and meiser, but he's a chaver. And a chaver usually took care of it right away. He died today, you're right. He died, maybe he didn't have a chance, but there's a very big chance that what? Yeah, 80%, 90%, maybe 95%, even if it's not a vadai. Maybe it's not a vadai. But with Simon, mele were good. So the second suffix cancels out the first suffix.
What's the
pasuk that has to go into them.
So benatoida, it's mamish not tevel. The Rabbanan came and said you should still not make a permanent meal from it even before Gemar Malach. You can use it as a snack, you can eat it as a snack, and you could feed it to your animal.
And they're not telling you to make again rice. No,
so if you bring it into the house in a way that minatoida it's not mechuyev and meiser, so it's asur ba'achilas kva, which means use it as a permanent meal even midirabbanan. So even after I remove everything and now I have kernels, I can make a big meal of challah because I never gave meiser midirabbanan, but my behemoth can eat from it. So that's why it wasn't really a viable option, because you're basically not going to be able to make challah, you're not going to be able to have a real meal, but you could snack on it and you can give it to your animal. Midirabbanan, minatoida it's taka good. Minatoida it's taka good. And Taka Rashi asked the question, if minatoida it's good, but midirabbanan it's not good, right? If midirabbanan it's not good, so that means midirabbanan it's vaday tevel. So how do you say that when a chava dies, everybody can eat it? Over here it's safek moitzi midei vaday. So on this Rashi says that since it's only an issa derabbanan, the Rabbanan relied on the chazaka of a chaver, even if it's not a vaday, on the safek that he was ma'aser for their ma'aser. They relied on it. They didn't make the gzeir in such a situation. They didn't make the gzeir in such a situation. That's what Rashi says. According to Rashi, by the way, which not everybody agrees, what happens if this chaver or anybody would then take the tefua back out and bring it into the house? Then you're good. Then you back in other words, if you do the threshing in the house, you take it back out, you bring it back in, then you brought it in after Gemar Malacha. Or even if you take it back out and you do it outside, I'll tell you the mice. It's a very practical thing. Let's say there's a hurricane coming. A huge thunderstorm. I've just finished harvesting all my stuff. What are you going to do with the grain? So if you have a good storage place outdoors with a good roof, a silo, then fine. But if not, you could bring it into your house, right? And then in 2 weeks, when the weather is better, you'll bring it back out. So this was a common thing. What's the halacha now? Can you eat it or you can't eat it? The answer is it's pata for meiser. Because machnis adon moitshelo. But now if I take it back out and I do the process and I bring it back into the house, then it would be mechuyev and meiser. Would be mechuyev and meiser.
The guy was a chacham, he was trying to take meiser at that time. It was probably
yeah. I should say that there is a shitta in Rishonim. There is a shitta in Rishonim that if you take it into your house and you bring it back out and you do the processing there and then you bring it into your house, it's mechuyev and meiser. What happens if you process it in your house and then you bring it outside and then you put it back in? You can say it's mechuyev and meiser. There's a shit in Rishonim that if you do the processing in the house, then it could never again be mechuyev and meiser. If the Gemar Malacha was in the house, not outside, it will never again be. There's one shit in Rishonim like that. It will never again be mechuyev. And therefore, according to them, in such a situation, even midirabbanan, the tefua will not become aser. Why? Because they hold that according to the isur of the Rabbanan was only in tefua that it could still become mechuyev and meiser ben ha-Torah. But if it's something that you know for sure it's never going to become mechuyev and meiser ben ha-Torah, like this shitta, it's a gewaldige chiddush. Then the Rabbanan also wouldn't aser it because it could never. They're not afraid because it can never become mechuyev and meiser ben ha-Torah. So when the Brisa says pturim and meiser, when it says it means it's completely potter for meiser. Even for a person, it's completely potter for meiser. That's the shitta, one shitta known as the shitta of Rabbeinu Ephraim. That's what he holds. That's a unique chiddush. That's a unique chiddush. By the way, according to this chiddush, the question of Rashi wouldn't apply. Rashi asked the question that what? That l'cha'ira midirabbanan it's still asur. According to this, midirabbanan it's not asur. It's not asur, so you don't have to worry. It's not vaday tevel midirabbanan. Okay, I just wanted above all in that shit. It's one shit in Rishonim. It's the shit of Rabbeinu Ephraim, and it's brought in different Rishonim. It's brought in Tosfos HaRashba, but it's brought in different Rishonim. It's a shit of Rabbeinu Ephraim. From Rashi, is not mashma that way. Let's go weiter now. Frag the Gemarah, ve'ein safek moitzi midei vaday. We're not sure yet. Is it really true that a safek, an uncertainty, cannot extricate you from a certainty? V'atanya, we have a brais, a story. Amar Rabbi Yehuda told a story. Ma'aseh b'shiv chasher shel matzik echad. There was a story with a maid. It's the same question like before. V'chi ein safek moitzi midei vadai. I understand a regular suffix can't be moitzi midei vadai. A regular suffix. That makes sense. If something is 100% and something is 50, so which one are you going to invest in? Yeah. If there's a stock that is 100%, well, you can never say 100%. But if something is 100%, something is 50%, you invest in the 100%. I understand that. If I have a vadai isur and a suffix heter, I got to go to the vadai isur. Got it. You can't say suffix is moitzi midei vadai. There's no logic to that. But what if the suffix is a unique type of suffix? Like we learned that Tosfos says that suffix achila of an animal is suffix haragil v'karoiv levadai. Over there, perhaps we could think suffix is moitzi midei vadai because it's not a vadai, but it's like we'll say, I don't know, statistically, say 100% and 98%. I mean, so maybe halachically we could go in the suffix. We're not talking about any regular suffix be moitzi midei vadai. That doesn't make sense. So it's obvious what the Gemara means here is a certain type of suffix it's karev levadai, that what happened would be matir. It would be matir. For example, the common trait of animals to eat. Animals are always searching for food. Insects, rodents, animals, we know that. All the training of animals happens around food, revolves around food. Some of us are also doing the same thing. Right? So that's clear from Tosfos. So that's why first the Gemara said maybe this suffix would be moitzi midei vadai. Maybe this suffix would be moitzi midei vadai. So now he asks a question. Vatanya, we learned a brayso. Amar Rabbi Yehuda said, "Ma'aseh b'shiv chasher shel matzik echad." There's a story about a shivcha. A shivcha is a maidservant. A maidservant or a slave woman. A woman who's a slave who works as a servant at somebody's house. Shel matzik echad. Very interesting. Meitzik means an oppressor, an abuser. Meitzik is somebody he bothers people. He's a meitzik. Rashi says, Inish alma, a strong bully, like a bully person, a powerful person who oppressed. V'Yisrael, he was a Yid, a Jew, and he had a shifcha, he had a woman who was his servant, a slave, worked for him. And they lived in a place called Rimoin. Shehitila nefel abar. The shifcha, the maidservant, took a nefel. A nefel is a stillborn child, a child that came out of the womb but it's lifeless, and she threw it into a pit. Now what happens? Quite an interesting story. Uba koyin v'hitzitz boy, leidim zachurim nekevehi. A koyin came and he stood on the edge of the pit and he bent down into the pit. So his body was now hovering over the pit, over the cave. He goes down like this. And he looks into the boy, he looks into the hole. So his body is now horizontal over the boy, laid to see if the fetus is a zachar or a nekeva, a male or a female. Rashi, Bokoyim v'hitzitz al svasa boy. Tesamet beis. Leidim zachim nekeva. So Rashi first of all wants to know, why did a kohen go there? He says, first of all, a kohen karev. The kohen was obviously close, a relative. That's what he was. That's what happened. That's why they sent him. He was a karev of the mishpacha, relative. Or maybe he was a member of the household, whether he worked there, he had a connection there, whatever he was. In other words, they sent a kohen not because he's a kohen, because he was a relative. What was the issue? They sent the kohen to be able to tell the mother, mativoy, if it's a male or a female. What's the difference? V'tavchin shall know beitumas v'taras zachil and beitumas v'taras nekeva. There's a different halacha when it comes to the purity and impurity of a male fetus or a female fetus. We all know that a mother who gives birth and also a mother who miscarries, very important, or a mother who has a stillborn child, not only does she gives birth, even if she doesn't give birth to a living child, there's a din of tumah, like a nida. But it depends what type of fetus it is. If she gives birth to a male or she miscarries a male, she's tamei for 7 days. If she gives birth to a female, she's tamei for 14 days. Min HaTorah we know, after that tumah, what happens? she goes to the mikveh. 7 days after a boy, 14 days after a girl. She goes to the mikveh, and then she has a period called Yemei Toihar, days of purity. And the chiddush is that even if she sees blood during those days, she's not impure. She can continue being with her husband. She is completely considered pure. How long? For a male child, it's 33 days. So she's Tameh 7, she goes to the mikveh, then there's 33 days of purity. Altogether, it's a period of 40 days. For a female, it's 66 days. After 14 days of Tumah, 66 days of purity. Okay. La halacha today, we know in Shulchan Aruch and Yeridei Kuf Tzadik Daled that today, when a woman sees blood a few weeks after birth, male or female, we don't consider it dam tayar. We consider it tumah, which is why it delays the relationship between the husband and the wife. But the point here is, we're talking here about tayar, and the reason is because of the confusion of types of bloods and so forth. That's how we do it today. So that's why it was so important for him to know if the baby is a male or a female, because it's a completely different halacha. So today they wouldn't have to send the kohen because it wouldn't be negeya.
First of all, it's his job. It's the kohen's job.
No, it's not the kohen's job. That's why Rashi says he was a relative. He was a boy. He was in the house. So she says, "Do me a favor."
They gotta know what the shifka.
They gotta know what the halacha is. Yeah, avada. It's eating truma. It's everything. It's being with your husband. Huh?
But it would affect him as far as avoid it eating truma. Because it would be too much mace, no?
Oh, that's the problem.
Stuck his head.
That's the problem, yeah. Whose baby was it? Was it her baby? Or maybe it was her master's baby? It doesn't say. It doesn't say whose baby it was.
Does it make a difference as far as what the guy stuck his head in?
If you look in Tosfos, the last Tosfos testament, it says, Mikan ein lo yichiach de shivchim etama belida, the shemesh shel gvir tahaya. There's a big question if a shivcha has dinei tumas yeledus or not. So Tosfos says, you have a gewaldige raya from this Gemarah. He says, we don't know. We're not sure it was her baby. Stop, a very interesting ara. But the truth is that Tosfos says in Teres Koyanim, it says that a shivcha, a slave woman, does have tumas yeledus, and that's why it could be it was for her herself. You could say it was for her master's wife. She took it. It wasn't her baby. She pushed it, delivered it, and then they sent a kohen because they needed somebody who was more of an expert. But lav dafke, because in Teres Koyanim it says that she's also tumas, so it could be her own, which is the Parshas Gemarah. It was her own.
But the nafkamin also, if it's a kohen's baby or not, because if it's kohen's baby, then it's mutter for him to metamer himself.
Excellent question. The kohen made a mistake. Why did he make a mistake? Because he's not allowed to become impure from a mace. When he bends over the boy, he creates an oil. He creates a tent. He is the tent, because his body. The problem is, just like if he would be under the tent with the mace, he would become tameh. When he is the oil, he also becomes tameh. So that was the problem. Now you're asking, if Rashi says he was a relative, a kohen is allowed to become tameh for his relatives. The pasuk says in Parshas we go tameh for his father and his mother and his brother and his sister and his son and his daughter. And Rashi says he was a karev. The answer is, even if you want to say he was the father, the heter for a kohen to become tameh is only two reasons. If the mace was a ben kayama, meaning somebody who died, who was alive, not a stillborn child. And number two, it's l'tzorech hames. It's for the mace, for the need of the mace, like for the burial, for the covered hames, and so on and so forth.
There's also covered the mace because they put them on the board.
Well, let's take a look. Tosfos discusses it.
It covers the board. It's not inside an oil. It's loose.
You're right. Even though he's not inside of the oil, but because he's covering it, so therefore he becomes tameh. Yes. Yeah. Let's see Rashi. This kohen forgot that you're not allowed to. A kohen is not allowed to become tameh. Now what happened? Hanefel loira. He didn't see the baby. V'tiharu mimayil al hames. And they said, let's go back to the story. They said the kohen is tar. Let's go back to the story. Uba kohen vehitzitz by leidim zachuim nekevehi. He came to the bar and he takes a look and he does not see a baby there. Now he comes home and he tells the woman, I'm sorry, we don't know what it is, male or female. It's not there anymore. It's not there. Now the question is, okay, so with her we don't know. What about he? Is he tamei or not? They brought the case for the Chachamim, v'tiharu, and they said the kohen is tahir. He doesn't need anything. Why? Because this was a type of pit. It's very common for weasels, and a bardalus, according to most, is a polecat. You know what a polecat is? A polecat is from the family of weasels. They're common there, and they probably dragged away the nefel to their hole, wherever they are, to their hiding place, before the kohen came, and therefore, there was no oil on a mace. There was no mace anymore, because the nefel was not there, so the kohen is tired. That's the maisa. That's the maisa. Rashi, shechuldo bardalus mitzuyin sham, ustam chur chuldo bardalus poiseach tefachu.
If it's a mice, they could have asked him the story. Did you see something? What you did?
He said no.
Oh. So then
He said no.
Oh.
So they said he's tired. Why is he tired?
It's gone.
It's gone. Why is it gone? Because the chul and the bardalus are there. You could say they took it away to their place.
So by
One second. Rashi says, ustam chur chuldo bardalus poiseach tefachu. The general hole, the cavity, the hiding place for the polecat and the weasel is usually poiseach tefach. It's the width of a tefach and it's the height of a tefach, which is only 3-4 inches. V'giriru l'chura. So they dragged the corpse away to their hole, to their cavity. V'lo yeil. He wasn't a tent over a mace. Why does Rashi have to say it was poiseach tefach?
That they slept in.
Huh?
That they slept in.
They slept it in there. Yeah.
Is it by nofel? There's no puvet hameis. There's no such a concept.
There is covered hameis, but the kohen wasn't doing it for covered hameis. He was doing it to give a halachic determination to the mother.
What is the halacha?
So it's not for covered hameis.
It looks like the Maisa started with the Shivcha and it ended up telling about the Kohen. What happened with the Shivcha?
What happened with the shivcha was he came back and he said, "I don't."
Does she have to use tough-
Yeah, she doesn't know if it's a male or a female.
Only for 14.
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
if he was a chocham, then why they brought it in front of the chacham? He should have known himself. Right?
No, the question is he's tamei or not?
Yeah, but what is he doing there? Is he a Talmud Chacham or not? If he is Talmud Chacham, he should pass in the Shaila for even for him.
No. If he was a Talmud Chacham, he would have known not to do this. Send somebody else. He did this. Yeah.
So why did they send him to begin with?
To see if it's a male or a female. You don't have to be a Talmud Chacham to see a boy from a girl.
That's-
Maybe today, yeah, but
that's
then
the
you didn't
first
have
one.
to.
So it's not like to pass in a law.
No.
Just to
Yeah.
give a fact.
Yeah.
Like this or that.
Yeah. Now it looks like, why do they have to say that there's a polecat here, there's a weasel here, even if they're not here? L'cha'ira, the nefel wasn't there. So what's the problem? Let's say there's no weasels. It wasn't there. Who cares how it disappeared? But l'cha'ira, I would think the vart is that it was maybe deep, so he couldn't see clearly. He couldn't be sure that it's not there. Maybe yes, maybe not. So maybe you could think the nefel was there, but he just didn't realize it. And therefore it became a suffix. Even if he would know for sure 100% that there's no nafel there, if he would know for sure, or he would know for sure there is a nafel, either way, there wouldn't be a suffix if he's tar or he's tamei. So the bottom line is that he wasn't 100% sure. So he couldn't give an answer to the mother, to the shivcha, but the question became about him. And the Chachamim said, because this is a place where there are weasels and polecats, so you can assume that they dragged it away, and therefore the kohen is not tamei. The kohen is tahir.
What does it add to the story that it said in the beginning that the master was holy, the strong man?
You want to know why it's relevant that he was a bully?
How does it figure in here?
That's a good question.
Maybe because of this bullying, she had enough.
We don't know if it was his wife or the shifka.
You want to know the mainaf keminna that this guy was a bully. That's what you want to know, yeah?
Why is it mentioned?
Because the whole story because of
That's
Chosr
why she had
Shel
enough to begin with. Yeah.
Huh?
Didn't treat her well, so she had enough.
Mainaf keminna. You're blaming him for what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says Inish Alma Yisrael have it means Yisrael and not a Kohen? Let's say
No, a
Rashi
Jew,
saying-
a
No,
Jew,
you're
a
saying-
Jew. Yeah, if he's a guy, then there's no Tumas in letters by his
That's what I'm
shivcha.
saying.
Was a Jew, or his wife was a Jew. Yeah, Rashi says he was a Jew. You want to know the Mainaf Gemina that he was an alim? Why would the Gemara say that he was an alim? Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Ich weiß nicht. It's an interesting hard. I don't know the answer to that. Okay, why does Rashi have to say that the hole was Pesach Tefach? Let's say it was a smaller hole. Rashi says they dragged it away to their hole, away from the poir, inside Pesach Tefach.
Maybe it's not a complete oil.
Oh, very, 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 very important. Because even if they dragged it away, right, we don't know where they dragged it away. Okay? The hole may be right near the pit. The kohen may be laying over it. And therefore, this nafel is in a hole, and he's reclining. He bent down, and his body is horizontally over that hole, and he becomes tameh. Even though it's only a suffix, but perhaps if it's a reshus hayachid, if it's a private domain, which it may have been, so it's a suffix tumah b'reshus hayachid. We learned yesterday that a suffix tumah b'reshus hayachid, not b'reshus harabim, is tameh. That's why Rashi says that the regular hole of a chuldan abardalos has the width of a tefach and the height of a tefach. That's called pesach tefach. Then it has the shear of an oil that's choitzitz b'fnei hatumah, meaning if there's tumah inside, it will not go up above, and therefore the kohen will not become tameh. If the nafel is in a boir, so there's just a direct opening to the top, now the kohen covers it, and he becomes tameh. But since here it's a pesach tefach, so therefore it becomes a chatzitza for the tumah. On the contrary, if it would be smaller, right, if it would be a smaller pesach tefach, then it's called tumah by kas. It's like you're squeezing the tumah in, then the tumah would burst out and be metameh the kohen above the earth. That's the halacha. But because that's l'chayda where Rashi says pesach tefach, that's what the Marshal says.
If you have a room inside a house and it's only slightly covered, that's considered an oil?
Yeah.
Just a dry?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when you put it in the bar, it's not...
No, if he was over the
The
boy.
head is looking in.
But that's an oil.
That's considered-
Yeah, yeah. Frag the Gemarah Pesachim here, the Vadei Tila, Gewaldike Kasha. It's certain that she put a fetus into the pit. V'safek geriru, v'safek lo geriru. It's a doubt if the rodents, if the animals, if the weasels and the polecats dragged it away or didn't drag it away. We're not sure. Hahi shata. That time. It's a suffix. We know for sure that she put in a nafel into the boy. It's only a suffix. Geriru, maybe they dragged it away, or suffix lo geriru, hahi shaita. Until that time, before that time when the kohen came to the boy. Nonetheless, because he's suffix, and yet the suffix that maybe they dragged it away is moitzi. It takes away, it cancels out the certainty that there was a corpse. And we would say, since the suffix is a suffix karev levadai, because it's very common when animals see food, they don't leave it there, they schlep it away. But it's not certain, but it's karev levadai. Maybe such a suffix would be moitzi midei vadai. Why? Because it's a suffix haragel and karev levadai. But here we see again the principle. It's a vadai tuma and a suffix not tuma, right? Maybe they slept, maybe they didn't. Nonetheless, we say the kohen is tahir. We say the kohen is tahir. Zog the Gemarah, wait. Loi tema, he tila nefel abar. Ela ema, he pila kemin nefel abar. It doesn't mean she put a child into the pit, a corpse. It means he pila kemin nefel abar, something that looked like a nefel. In other words, it could be, she took the amniotic, something that came out of the body, the amniotic sac, and put it into the boy. It doesn't necessarily mean there was a child there. It could be, take a look in Rashi, Ruach hipila, yeah, hipila kamei nefel aboy. Okay, it'll be soon. But the point is, the next Rashi is on the later Gemara. The point is, it was something that looks like a nefel, but it wasn't necessarily a corpse. Hipila may have a suffix for suffix. So it's a suffix and a suffix. It's not a vadai that's being cancelled out by a suffix. It's a suffix. it's a suffix, maybe there was a child, maybe there was no child. That's suffix number one. Suffix number two is, even if there was a child, maybe the animals dragged it away. So therefore the Chachamim said that the kohen is tahir. The Brisa said that they sent the kohen to figure out if it's a male or a female. That means they knew that there was a corpse, a child. Hachikamet, it means Leida, first of all, to know im ruach ipila, im nefel ipila. If she put into the boy a ruach would mean, as Rashi says, ruach ipila shfir malei ruach. Shfir malei ruach would mean like an amniotic sac or a membrane that's filled with air. It wasn't filled with a real fetus. V'imtim tzaloymar nefel hoya, and even if it was a nefel, kaloymar l'chol elo hutzrach. They needed the kohen for all this. Shema ruachu. First of all, maybe it was not a child, it was ear. Va'agid, and then I'll say, ve'en kan loy tuma zachav loy tumas nekeva. Ve'merish uvlat suchani lirisim zachav nekeva. The kohen came and said, first of all, they wanted to know if there's a child. If there's no child, there's no child, no tumah. Because if there's no child, there's no tumah. A tumah is only if there's a fetus. If she didn't miscarry a fetus, there's no tumah. Sometimes there could be a miscarriage, but it's not a child. Looks like it could be it
has to do with the timing of the...
Of course. Even if it was a child, I have to see if it's a zachar and a keva. So that's pshat. The first thing you have to know is later ruach epila nefel epila. Tip tzalaima nefel epila later zachar and a keva. But Mela in the Brisa was a suffix if there was a nefel, and therefore the suffix that the animals dragged it away could cancel out the suffix that there was a nefel. So Mela, there's no contradiction to Rava's statement that ein suffix moitzi midei vadai, and if a rat comes with bread, I'm sorry, there's no way you could be exempt from tikkos chametz, because maybe she ate it, maybe she didn't eat it, because it's a suffix in a vad. V'boy same, or you could answer also, hasam vadai or vadai. It's a vadai and a vadai. Why? Given the chuld or bardless mitzuyin sham, since this is a place where there are weasels and polecats that are common, vadai geiru by shaita. It's an vadai. Statistically, it's absolutely certain that at that point, when the kohen came, which was not immediately after she put it in, it was a while after, and there's animals, rodents roaming around, you could be certain they dragged it away from there into their hiding place. This is a chazaka that's considered a vadai, certain. So it's not a suffix moitzim midei vadai, it's a vadai moitzim. Vadai, my Rashi says vadai gararu muchzaken hein bekach, and he uses the word muchzaken, just like we learned before chazaka al chaver. The Gemara says, "Soichlin ala chazakas." We give stoning for chazakas. Right? Somebody has a chazaka that he's this mother's son. It's a chazaka, but it's considered a vada to the point that if they have relations, there'll be the death penalty. Chazaka is considered a vada, even though it's not a vada, but it's assumed as a very powerful certainty. You can't compare it to our Mishnah where we saw the rat with food. Chayshina, where you have to be afraid that there's still chametz. The nehida vaday achla lo yamar aval giru lechur shalanamar. As the Gemara is going to continue. There's a difference between dragging away the food to your hole and eating it, as the Gemara is going to say. Vaday giru ba'ishayt. By us also you could say the same thing. If there's a rat with bread, so schlepped it away. He says, I do know that sometimes a weasel or a rat could leave over a little food. So if my rat comes into my house with a bagel, I could say she ate it up, but maybe she didn't eat it up. She ate part of it and she left over some for a rainy day, so I have to do another b'dikas chametz. But migrar miyas vadai geirum b'hayshaita. But when it comes to dragging, it's different. You could be certain that by the time the kohen came to the pit, they dragged away the food to hide it. So therefore, you can't compare the two situations, which means like this. When an animal sees food, an animal doesn't just say, I'm going to do a little iskafia, I'm on a diet, sorry, that's not part of the equation. It's not part of the equation. We're not talking about animals who have surpluses of foods and it's always there. Animals, they survived, and they're very well familiar with how scant food can be sometimes. And here they have such a metzia, a ganze corpse, or a little corpse, or part of a corpse. They are certainly taking it away. Am I certain that they ate it up? That I'm not going to say. They can eat part of it, they can eat it for later, they may not be hungry now. But girum is a vada and a vada. When it comes to our Mishnah, I'm not telling you that the rat gave up the chametz. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that the rat maybe didn't eat the chametz. If the question was, is the rat holding on to the chametz or the rat is not holding on to the chametz? Of course the rat is holding on to the chametz. That's a vada. But that wouldn't cancel out b'dikas chametz. B'dikas chametz could only be canceled out if I know for sure that the rat ate the chametz. But if the rat put it away in my house somewhere under the couch or under the table or in a hole, I'm mechuyev b'dikas chametz. I have chametz. So in Mela, it's a vadei chametz and a suffix that she ate it, but it's a suffix she didn't eat it. Maybe she just dragged it somewhere and hid it somewhere, and then I have to do b'dikas chametz. So in Mela, when it comes to our Mishnah, Rav is right. Ain't suffix moitzi midei vadei, and therefore you have to do another b'dikas chametz. Over there, they were right that the kohen is tired. Why is the kohen tired? Because there's no nafel. He didn't see a nafel. What do you mean he didn't see a nafel? There was a nafel there. For sure, it's a suffix. It's not a suffix that if there's a chulda and a Bible, they certainly dragged it away, and they dragged it away somewhere else. There's no tumas oil, because he wasn't covering the mace, because the mace is not there, and that's a certainty.
So why can't we say the same thing about our Mishnah? That the certainty that the chulda dragged the bread away.
No,
and
we're away, and
we're not the
how do you know outside of the house? How do you know she took it out of the house?
Well, she always took it away to eat it later.
But it's in the house.
Well, it's in the house in the places where I'm not mechuyev.
Why? How do you know? I don't know where it is. No.
To search where I brought the.
No, so maybe that's where it is.
It's not me who brought it there, so it's a chulda.
Irrelevant.
Why? For sure, she dragged it away. She didn't leave it in the middle of the master bedroom on my bed.
If the chametz doesn't belong to somebody else, if the chametz doesn't belong to a Gentile, then I don't mekabel achrayis. I'm mechuyev dikas chametz, even if I didn't bring it there.
For sure, they dragged it in the way.
I don't know where. You're saying very nice, but I saw a rat in my dining room with chametz.
That's enough.
That's enough. You're right. If the rat went to my next door neighbor, I'm good, but I don't know. It's a suffix. That's my point.
She just passed in my bedroom.
Halavai. Ich weiß aber nicht. She didn't tell me.
And now I'm being mechuyev to search.
But maybe she has a little corner in the basement somewhere. You know where mice, rats hang out? Not always in invisible places that I have no access to. You're right. If she went to the sewer system under the ground, very good. I don't know. That's my problem. Ain't suffix. I have to do another b'dikas chametz. Here's in parentheses that some people are not goyres because it seems like a redundancy.
Bittel again too.
Bittel?
When you do this, when you have to do both.
You should do bittel. Yeah, we do bittel. We do bittel a second time. We always do bittel. According to our minhag, we do bittel right after we burn the chametz. We do bittel in case the chametz that we knew about got lost somewhere. So yeah, we would do bittel. Lishna chirina. We may not say taka that they certainly ate it, but that they dragged it away to their holes. That we say as a certainty. It looks like the two lashonos are identical, and that's why the Marshal says that you should erase the first one. And from Rashi, it seems like he's only guided us the second one, because Rashi's lashon is nihi devadai achla loy amar aval giru l'chor amar, which is basically almost verbatim the second lashon. Zag the Gemarah, mi amrinon, do we say, ein chayshish and shema garir achulda? Let's go back to our Mishnah. Do we really believe that we're not afraid that a weasel brought chametz in from another house to our house? Vaktani Seifa, in the next Mishnah, Daf Yud, the end of this Mishnah, we're going to have a statement. It's going to say like this, Masha Meshayer, after b'dikas chametz, you always leave over some chametz to eat for breakfast. So the Mishnah says, whatever you leave over, yanechenu b'tzina, make sure you hide it, that it shouldn't be accessed, be accessible to any animal or child. So you shouldn't have to do another second b'dikas chametz. In other words, if you take your 10 pieces of bread, or you take your Cheerios or the chametz for breakfast, and you just leave it around, you may need another b'dika. You can need another b'dika. In other words, if you don't hide your chametz, what's the halacha? You would need a second b'dikas chametz. Why would you need a second b'dikas chametz? It seems like because we're afraid that if there's chametz in the house, somebody went and got lost. It's scattered around. You're going to need a second thing. Rashi says, Masha Meshayer, Achar b'dika me'achilasa yanichenu b'tzina. So it seems like if you don't hide the chametz, there is a chshash. There's a chshash that what? That you're going to need to do another b'dikas chametz because the chulda schlepped it into the place of b'dikas chametz. So why does the Mishnah say we're not chayshish? In other words, we see from the later Mishnah that we have to be chayshish for a weasel. Why do we have to be chayshish for a weasel? Because he says, make sure you hide your chametz so that you don't need the. The Mishnah says, ain't chayshish. But we see we have to be chayshish. So that, just like we're chayshish, if I don't hide. No. You're telling me if I don't hide the chametz, what's going to be? I'm going to need bdika.
That's because I have something.
I have something, and if I don't hide it, I'm going to need bdika. Why am I going to need bdika? Because you left chametz and a chulda brought it into the room that you baidik. So what do we see from it? That we are chayshish.
Are you going to start with another house?
When you have nothing.
Okay, good question. So at least be chayshish from one corner to another corner in the same house. In other words, and have an eitzah. Hire people to be baidik the whole house. You're saying only in one house, fine. So have everybody be baidik their house simultaneously, and then you solve the eitzah. Why does the Mishnah say you're not chayshish? You're right. We're not asking to be chayshish from one house to another house because ain't l'davar soif. One city to another city, one courtyard to another courtyard. But take a look in Taisus. V'loi chashin l'chulda. Haloi parich. He's not asking the neichish l'chulda afilu mebayis l'bayis. Dim kein ain't l'davar soif. I'm not asking you. Based on that Mishnah, we should be chayshish from house to house because it's endless. The EF shishliv the echad kaidem chavere. V'ikal lemechish. You can always be afraid. Shemei v'yichulda mebayis she'ein badik lebadik. You can always be afraid. Ela memakim parich. Dahainu ba'oisi abayis atzmai. K'loimar v'loi chashinu l'chulda ba'oisi abayis atzmai. Here there's an eitzah. The eitzah is hire 10 people, do the b'dikas chametz in your house simultaneously, so a chulda can't bring from one room to another room. What's the raya you should be chayshish from the end of the Mishnah? The end of the Mishnah says, if you don't put away your chametz, if you don't hide your chametz, you're going to need b'dika. Why are you going to need b'dika? Because a chulda is going to schlep it. So it's mamish, the beginning of the Mishnah, end of the Mishnah is contradicting each other, contradicting itself.
The only reason.
Yeah, but by Pesach it's not important.
So the question is how you touch the Mishnah. So the Gemarah.
The only reason the end of the Mishnah is
Yeah.
because you got chametz in your hand. If you don't
No.
Assuming
The Gemarah is understanding the
when
Mishnah.
you cleaned out your chametz,
And I left
no,
bread.
You didn't leave it.
But for breakfast I left.
Again.
Masha Meshayer Yanechenu B'tzina. What I leave over from Dikas Chametz, the Mishnah says, make sure you hide it somewhere.
If you have a chash, somebody's going to take it, then you got a problem.
But we see it even if you don't have a chash. The Mishnah is telling you have to hide the Chametz. And if you don't hide it, you got to go do B'dikas Chametz. I'm telling you, hide it. You got to go do B'dikas Chametz. Why do you have to go do B'dikas Chametz? Why? The answer is because we assume the rat came, saw food, and dragged it into a room where you did b'dika.
Why do we take it and burn it right on the spot? Because you want to eat it tomorrow.
Because you want to eat breakfast tomorrow. You want to eat breakfast tomorrow. There's also an Indian to do tashbisu by day. We'll see later. The Indian to do tashbisu by day. We learn from Noisa to do it by day dafka. But if you have a serious chash, you should burn it at night. You're allowed to burn your chametz at night.
So maybe you need to put it in a place where it should be.
So he says hide it. And if you don't hide it, it's mashma. You have to do b'dika. Why? Because the rat came, saw nice bread, took a few Cheerios, and may have brought it to a room where you already did b'dika. Right?
You're saying it's not a suffix. That's what you're saying.
So we see we are chayshish. The Mishnah Sefer says we are chayshish, at least in the same house. So why in the first Mishnah was it ain't chayshish and also this is at least in one house the Pesach Shash. Amar Abaya answered like kasha. You're mixing up. Habar basar, habishloishas. Quite an interesting answer. The din at the end of the Mishnah, they have to hide the chametz because the chulda could schlep it, is talking about the arbas. It's talking about your daladness. The Mishnah speaks over there about if you didn't do b'dika at night, you have to do b'dika in the morning. You didn't do it in the morning, you do it in the afternoon. So it could be talking about clearly your daladness. We're talking about the shloishasa. We're talking about Yud Gimel Nissen. Taitshe Yud Gimel Nissen at night. In other words, the time of B'dikas Chametz. Now listen to this logic. B'shloishasa, the 13th, Shchiach Rifta B'cholabati. All the houses are filled with bread. Loi Matzna. The Chulda doesn't have a crisis. There's bread everywhere. So she doesn't hide chametz because she's not afraid that she's going to go hungry. So Mela, we're not afraid that the Chulda is schlepping chametz and hiding it. On the 14th of Nisan, there's no bread anymore. So the weasel doesn't see bread. She loifed her room. She's looking for bread. It's not around. So B'meila, she's frightened. She sees a piece of bread, umatzna. She's right away going to go and hide it. So you, Daled Nissen, were afraid that the Chulda is going to schlep the chametz and hide it somewhere in the house, and therefore you have to do another b'dikas chametz. So that's why he's saying, make sure you hide your chametz, your Daled Nissen. Why? Because the Chulda is in a crisis mode. She sees a piece of chametz. What does she do? She goes and hides it, and it may be in a place where you did already a b'dika, so you have to do another b'dika. Mashenkin Yud Gimel Nissen, which our Mishnah is talking about, we're not afraid that the Chulda is going to drag chametz and hide it. She may eat a piece of chametz, that I don't mind, but that she's going to drag chametz and hide it, we're not afraid. Rashi says.
Consciousness of
Yud Gimel, that's before.
We'll see Rava's question. One more minute. We'll see Rava's question.
Gimel is before Bdika.
So we learned from Chulda not to clean the house for a month.
Let's see Rashi, 1 second. B'shloisha aser. Reisha diktani ein chayshish me'baydik b'shloisha aser. He's baydik on the 13th. Some say Rashi means he did b'dikas chametz earlier, meaning 13th by day, 13th in the morning. Or maybe Rashi means baydik b'shloisha aser, right in the evening. Shemotzui pas harbe l'chulda b'toy chabatim. There's a lot of bread still. Ve'en chaysheshes l'shayir. So she's not cautious that you have to leave over chametz because you don't have to save. That's good. B'meila, ein chayshishin. I'm not afraid that that a chulda saw chametz in one room and then schlepped it to another room and left it there because she's not busy doing this. Why is she not so busy doing this? Because there's enough bread. Mashenkin Seifer behediyat tanan b'yudalit. It says clearly talking about the 14th. V'kimen lechazia chulda pas harbe b'batim k'mayshei regila. Since she doesn't see the abundance of bread which she's used to, Meshaira. Now when she sees bread, I'm afraid she's actually going to allocate it and designate it and hide it somewhere. But Mela, you'll have to do another b'dikas chametz if you don't hide your chametz.
I'm a little confused with this Yud Gimel business.
I mean, the truth is, it's...
Why the chametz Yud Gimel? I mean, why would the Mishnah give me a whole thing early?
So either it could be Yud Gimel in the morning, or it means Yud Gimel at night.
Meaning Yudalit.
Yudalit, regular b'dikas chametz. But at that point, there's still a lot of bread in the houses. Because people are in the middle of b'dika, so there's still a lot of bread in the houses.
Okay. And then when he says Yudalit, he means Tesvav.
No, Yudalit by day, Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach.
I mean, they use a case of Chulda, but a nice child.
Yeah, child, same thing. Child is same thing. Yeah, but it's not only a child, it's also a rat. Makes a big difference. A child knows what's going on.
So you have to worry about it.
In other words, Yud Gimel at night, say. Even if the weasel takes chametz, let's say there's chametz upstairs. I'm doing b'dika here. There's chametz. She takes chametz. There's no reason to be afraid that she's going to go and hide it. In other words, maybe we're not saying rats don't hide food in the middle of the year, but it means very often she doesn't hide it. But unless I don't see her bringing in chametz to the house, I don't have to worry. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. But ain't choshishin, because it's not 100% that she's hiding it. Let's say 60%, 40%, 30%, 55%. So if I see her bringing the chametz, I have to be boidik, emes. Right? Abaya's chiddush is on Yudalit. She's for sure hiding it. That's smart. She's in a crisis mode. Yud Gimel maybe, but maybe not. Maybe she's eating it. Maybe she's not hiding it. So maybe it's a suffix. You don't have to be boidik. Ain't choshish. But Yudalit, she's in a crisis mode. A mamish choshish, and therefore, even if you didn't see the chul to take chametz, you have to be boidik. Moedik chiddush, and that's why he says hide your chametz from dikas chametz. Because if you leave it, then it gotta be boidik your house again. Wow. Amar Rava, let's just see what Amar Rava. Classic response. You turned a weasel into a prophet? Really? You're now telling me that the weasel knows about Pesach? She knows exactly what's going on? It's Yudalit, she sees there's not bread, and now she says crisis mode, Pesach is coming, the chametz is gone. This doesn't make sense. And of course there is a unique cynicism in Rava's words, because we know that there were 7 women prophets, and one of them was named Chulda. So Rav is not stam saying Chulda Neviyahu. It's like certainly you took this Chulda and you turned it into Chulda Neviya. That's what he means. It's a very interesting way of responding. He's not saying v'chichulda neviyahu. There was a neviah called chulda. It says v'chichulda neviyahu. In the chulda, suddenly this weasel became that chulda, became a navi. It's ridiculous. The yada she knows the idnar basar that now is the 14th of Nisan, v'loy afi ad l'urta, and they're not going to bake bread till the night, and therefore b'shaida she leaves it over umetamre and she hides it. Remember, the crisis is not continuing loylam vod. They're going to bake matzah tonight. They used to bake matzah on Pesach. You come home, you bake matzah. Frisch matzah. Wonderful. You're going to have a wonderful meal. It's going to be maybe a little hard. But they used to also have pita matzah, so it's not even hard. So you're telling me she's a navi, but a whole day there's not going to be bread. You know, Erev Pesach in the houses, stuff assassin. So she knows all this, right?
That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from.
That's what's going on there, Navi. In other words, what are you telling me? What are you telling me that the chulda now? You didn't understand.
Maybe she's not because she's in a beer, because it's much less bread. Because in Pesach there is no bread. Because of that, so
that's what Rashi says. Rashi says how he teaches. Take a look. V'chichulda neviyahi losses leiv al kach v'liris es hanoilid v'yedash le'yafu adayah. Rashi says before that, Abaye says that right now she sees there's not a lot of bread. So it's not a lot of bread right now. But Rav is saying, you not only say, first of all, losses leiv. She has to notice it. She has to see the matzav everywhere. V'liris es hanoilid, and she also has to know the future that for the whole day she's not going to bake. So Rava says that's already a more refined skill than just seeing that there's not so much bread now. In other words, she makes a cheshbon of what's going on in the matzav, not just right here. She does her own bdika, basically. And she makes a survey of the house. Yeah, it could be a balabas that cleans up a room. But she has to see it's a ganza matzav, and it's going to continue a whole Erev Pesach. So Rava says... So I guess they're arguing about the skills of a weasel, the skills of a rat, how intelligent they are. We know today that rats are profoundly intelligent, but still not prophets. They don't know the calendar, right? It's an interesting machlokes. Elo amar Rava. You didn't understand the Mishnah. Masha mishaya nechenu betzina shematitel chulda befaneinu v'yetzarech b'dika acharo. That's pshat. Hide the chametz that you're putting away, because if not, you may see a chulda take it, and you're going to need b'dika. That's the word. Abaya understood the Mishnah, gewaldike word, Abaya, gewaldike chumra, that if you don't hide your chametz, you have to do another b'dika's chametz, because you're afraid that the chulda went and hit chametz. Why are you afraid? Because the chuldas are in crisis mode, so you can be 99% sure that she's hiding chametz. But mainly you have to do b'dika. Rabbi says, no, of course ain't chayshish. We're afraid if you don't hide the chametz, you're going to have to do another b'dika. In other words, like Abaya, it's a din. Like Rav, it's just an eitzah toiv. It's good advice. It's not a din. You don't have to put away your chametz. Like Abaya, it's a din. If you don't put away the chametz that you're saving for breakfast, you're going to have to do another b'dika's chametz. Yeah? Rav is, I'm saying, an eitzah toiv. If you don't put it away, you're fine. But if you see a chulda, take it. Then you're going to have to do another b'dika. That our Mishnah doesn't argue with. If you don't see a chulda, then you don't have no difference. You're gimel, you're daled, neviah, not neviah, not negeya. If you see a chulda, then you have to do. Tanya Kavasei Rava, we have a raya, Haroitz Lechel Chametz Acha B'dik, if you want to eat chametz, Keitzad Yasa, Masha Mashaya Nechenu B'tzina, put it away in a hiding place, Shloi Savai Chulda, V'Sittel B'Fanein, V'Yetzarech B'dik Achara. Chulda shouldn't come and take it in front of us. Reb Mari gives a third answer, Gzeire Shema Yaniach Eser, V'Yimtza Teisha. I'm afraid if you don't hide the chametz, you put away 10, and you'll find 9, which means that what? Somebody took it. Not a suffix, it's gone. A child, a rat, lahavdil, a weasel, and therefore you have to do another b'dikas chametz. So Reb Mari, the Ran says, Reb Mari is not arguing with Rava. He's just moisef, that the chashash is bigger than you think. It's not just if you'll see a chulda schlep it. Even if you don't see a chulda schlep it. But you see a missing piece, that means somebody schlepped it. So Reb Mari is saying it's more strict than you realize, because you could be missing a piece. If you put 10 pieces and you left 9, and by the way, here you see from the Gemarah, interestingly, the source of the number 10 pieces, which didn't exist in the times of the Gemarah, This comes much, much later. And yet the Gemara uses this word. It's just a very interesting thing. And we could say that the Chulda then took it away. Somebody took it away, and you have to be boidik the entire house. And that's taka the halacha. The halacha is like Rava and Rev Mari, that if I do b'dikas chametz, and I leave a bag of chametz, I leave a bag of 10 pieces, and in the morning I want to burn it and I find 9 pieces, the halacha is I have to do another piece of b'dikas chametz. And of course, if I see a mouse come in and take a piece, I have to do another piece of the, and that's why the Mishnah says, make sure you hide it so you don't have to reach the state. Completely rejection of Abaya. Complete rejection of Abaya.
I feel like you don't see anything.
The Chiddush of Abaya is you didn't see anything. But since it's your Dalit and the Achbar is in crisis mode, the rat is in crisis mode, you have to do another B'dikas Chametz.
If you see
the same bread that yesterday.
Oh, if you know for sure how much you left and you see that nothing was touched, then Abaya would say you don't have to. But if, for example, right?
Where's the Rabbi and Mary?
No. It looks like Abaya is saying differently. If you saw Hulda was a piece of bread, doesn't matter what's coming from your 10 pieces or whatever, you have to do new bdika.
Everybody,
I would say, right? But Rabbi, you say, no, wait a second. Everything is there. It was 10 pieces, still 10 pieces. So don't need to do another bdika.
Loit Rava, if you see a chulda take, you have to do another bdika. Which is clear. Yeah. Loit Rav Mari, yeah, he just adds. You don't have to see it take. You just see that something is missing. So you can assume she took. By the way, it doesn't have to be a chulda. It could be a baby. It's not the point. Lahavdil. The point is the same. Somebody who's not responsible doesn't care about your bdikas chametz. That's why you put it high up, you put it in a drawer, you lock it, whatever it is.
Do we count it?
Yeah, according to Abaya, it would seem, though, that you can assume that the chulda took it. You can assume that the chulda took it, so that's why you have to hide it. Why can you assume that the chulda took it? Because it's your dalad, and you have to be chayshish. If there's chametz, the chulda schlepped it. So now, I think it's right to say, like Abaya, I think, that if you know for sure that there's 10 pieces, and you see 10 pieces, then you know for sure the chulda didn't take it. But if you had a suffix, you didn't count how much.
So there's no nafkamena.
There would be an afkamena. Because according to Abaya, you assume that the chulda took it. According to the money, you don't.
But Hulda could have taken it.
In other words, if you don't know...
If you put 10, you see 10, it's okay. If you put 10 and it's missing 1, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So
what if you don't know? There's a challah.
You may have used 12.
Forget the 10 pieces. You don't know. It's a piece of challah. Abaya would say you got to be chayshish. It's your dalit. I ain't chayshishin. You'd gimel. You're dalit chayshishin. If it's your dalit in the morning, you got to be chayshish because she's in a crisis mode. Go do another b'dikas chametz. It's not lahalacha, but that's his shitta. Where Rav Mari and Rava would say, even Rav Mari would say, no. The chulda's not in a crisis mode. Ain't chayshishin. If I see 9, then it's not chayshishin. Then it's real. It's almost like I saw the achbar. I don't see the achbar, but I see the results. Verstehst? Das ist the chiluk.
Well, why do you say that the thing of putting out 10 pieces was much later than when it's mentioned?
Because the Gemara doesn't say there's a chiyuv to put out 10 pieces. The Gemara says, Shema yaniach eser v'yimtza teisha. The Gemara is just giving a mashal where you see that somebody took something away. But there's no raya from here that you have to put out 10 pieces. But this is an interesting source. But we don't have a source for the minig, so we don't have a source for it.
It's actually a good question. The Mishnah says about Shema, right? When in the case of Mary in the Rava, it's like Vade, it's missing piece.
You're right.
So why is the Shema?
That's the word. Ein chayshish in Shema. If it's only a chash Shema, you're not chayshish. There's chametz upstairs. I don't care. I'm not chayshish that a chulda did this. Ein l'davar soif. But if I see the chulda schlepping away chametz, or bringing in chametz into the room, like the Gemara said, chazina deshach, or I see a piece missing erev Pesach in the morning, or I see an achba come and take, and I don't know what she did. Maybe she ate it, maybe she didn't, maybe she took it out of the house, maybe she didn't, right? Maybe she consumed, maybe she didn't, maybe she put it somewhere in the house. I have to do another b'dikas chametz. And as we say, ain't suffik moitzim tevada. Did she eat it? Maybe, but it's not suffik. As Rabbi said, ain't suffik moitzim tevada.
Be a tenant for Abaya. It's this panic business.
The panic.
Yeah, this with Navi business. This makes sense.
Maybe Abaya felt that animals were very, very sensitive.
Right. Okay, I guess so.
Rashi says clearly that in other words, she sees that there's something going on
She
here.
used to come out every night to the specific place in Cloud, whatever it was to take communion. She comes out at night.
Right, that's what he's saying. Your Dalit, she goes in for breakfast. She goes to the same place and there's no bread. Now there may be matzah there later, but that's going to be later. Now there's nothing. So she gets terrified, and if she sees somewhere a piece of bread, she's going to put it away. Rava says she's not a Nevi'ah. Losses leiv al kach v'liris es anoilad. Two things. Now, he rejects this whole ma'isa. It's an interesting machlokes. It seems like almost a machlokes about the skill of a rodent. Huh?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Yes, he said the time is so little.
In other words, could be. In other words, if it would happen for weeks, so then she would acclimate herself. But this is a few hours, so does she really make such cheshbonos?
It's a chol that happens. She lives here for a while.
Listen, in their homes there were weasels and there were rats and there was very common mice and rats and weasels. It was just very common. Obviously, if it wasn't common, then the whole discussion wouldn't exist.
Yeah, and nowadays it's irrelevant with law, because if we see an animal take a piece, we would not even touch it. With a broom, we would not touch it. We'd stay afraid of diseases.
You would stay in the house for Yaakov. You would move out.
Yes, it's a hefka de'ara le'olam moed, you would never touch it.
Yeah.
So it's possible in the minutes, what it would end later, they use this Gemarah?
Yeah. This Gemarah is brought as a source.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.